All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Daily December 2023. Today is day 6. So, today, in about 4 hours from when I'm recording this, which I have no idea what that'll mean as far as upload, but I'm going to be running the first actual session of Fabula Ultima on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv slash Trainer Jody. There we go. Could not remember my own Twitch channel. And I've been doing prep for it and kind of making plans and everything for the past couple of days. And one of the things, I need a drink real quick. Hold on a second. Water. Wasser. Which I believe is German for water. All right. I've done tons and tons of videos on various aspects of RPGs in general, and I don't know if I've ever actually described kind of my what I consider final prep before a campaign starts. So when I start a new campaign, first of all, unlike the mini campaigns that I do for Day of December, I generally don't have a session 0. And the reason why is I will generally have a centralized way to reach out to the people that will be playing. And everyone that plays in my RPGs, I reach out to them personally before they start playing. And we have a conversation, whether that's over email or Discord or Twitter DMs, whatever it is. That's generally how the things start. And that conversation takes care of a lot of the things that a session 0 would take care of as well, where I basically go, okay, well, this is the world, and, this is kind of the idea of the campaign and stuff like that. I generally have kind of a theme or like a basic idea of where I want the campaign to start. And so I reach out to everyone, and I tell them about the world. I will generally hand over the campaign Bible that I've created by then. And then I start... Thank you, phone. And then I start working with each person one-on-one to start building their character. And one of these days, maybe that's something that I'll do... maybe that's something I'll do for Daily December, is I'll just bring on a few of the people that have played in my games and talk about the character creation process and basically what we do to kind of build characters. If you watch my Fabula Ultima session 0, you can see a little bit of that going on. But there was even more stuff that happened off camera, especially since I had 2 players that couldn't make it to the session 0. But anyway, so I work one-on-one with them. We build the characters, and then my general rule is, once we've built the characters, because we do this all just by talking, my rule for most of my players is, okay, if you want to play in my game, I have an extremely bad memory due to medication stuff. Benzos have now been shown to cause brain damage after 6 months, and I was on them for 2 years. So I can't remember a lot of the things that we'll to talk about. And so my one rule for most of my players is, you need to write this down and send it to me as a document, as something where I can copy it and I can have a central place on my computer where I can just go and I can look up your backstory. This is especially useful if there are specific named characters in their backstory that I want to bring in. And even then, like for Legend of the Three Kingdoms, I am constantly asking them I'm really sorry. I can't remember this particular name because I've always, even before the meds, I've always had issues with names. I just can't remember them. So I go, what's the name of this dude? Oh, yeah, the Bloody Wolf. There we go. So, so all of this is what I consider pre-production. And I go and I get everybody's characters. And then I start looking at, okay, how am I going to get these characters together? What is going to do? And I generally, for most of my games, and literally right after I finish recording this, I'm actually going to be sending these particular messages to each of my Fabula Ultima players. But generally what I do, instead of them showing up on game night and going, okay, what do we do? And I go, well, you start in a tavern and this person's here. I have given each and every person playing a personalized hook where they have, I've kind of described a little bit of a scenario for them that gives their character a reason to be in a place at a specific time. I may mention other members of the party in there. A lot of times I'll do it without names or anything like that, because if they are just kind of strangers that are meeting up, they wouldn't know each other's names, but they might know a description of them, especially by the time most of my campaigns start. I generally don't like to start at level 1. With a few rare exceptions, I generally prefer to start at like level 3 or level 5. So these, the people that they're going to be working with are already extraordinary people. And so they probably do have a little bit of a reputation by the time that my campaigns start. And so yeah, I write up, they're generally, depending on how long the campaign's going to be, they're generally going to be like a page to 2 pages. And it's just a little story that I write, and I give it to each one, and I generally will end each one with, and that's where we're going to start on Wednesday, tonight, whatever it is. I hope you're still excited. And because I take the time to, first of all, I work with each player individually to not only design their character, but really get to know the character. I need to know their motivations. I need to know the things that kind of fuel the character. I generally, by the time I'm writing these personal hooks, I know the character well enough that I can put that character in a specific situation, and I'm relatively certain what choices the player would make in that very narrow situation, which is why the hook can work the way that it does. It takes a lot more work than just kind of, just build a character and give me their backstory. But the results speak for themselves, to be perfectly honest. My campaigns go on for a long time. And my players become very, very attached to their characters, because not only did they have a hand in making them, like every other RPG, but we have kind of personally crafted the story of the campaign to be kind of centrally focused on the motivations of the characters, despite the fact that, again, I already have an idea of where I want the campaign to go before I even start looking for players, by building their characters and using that character building process to get to know the characters, to see their motivations, to see their wants and their needs. I can kind of custom fit the campaign to really hit certain buttons in characters to make them highly motivated to continue. And when the players themselves are already invested in their characters, because that's one of the things, and I've said this to quite a few different people that have played in my games. I will generally sit somebody down and go, the most important aspect of killing your character. That comes later. The most important aspect of creating your character is you need to create a character that you're excited about. Not a super strong character, not a character that perfectly fits in the world or anything like that. The thing that matters most is you need to be excited to play this character. So I will almost always start off from a story perspective where I'll describe the world and I'll go, so what kind of story would you be interested in to the telling? And then I take it a couple different ways. Some people need the mechanics first. And so we'll go to the mechanical side and go, okay, well, let's pick these skills, let's pick your class, and then we can kind of work backwards. And other people really, really enjoy starting with, well, I had this kind of idea of a character that has to deal with this. I go, okay, well, with that particular kind of story, if we kind of put them in this part of the world, that's something that a lot of people in this part of this made up world might have to deal with. And we can kind of mold and I remember distinctly for Tears of the Realms, which is my second Zelda campaign that I run for Zelda Universe. I think every single person, aside from maybe Elias, because Elias, as much as I pick on Elias a lot, it's because I have the absolute utmost respect for him. And he generally tends to come to me with characters that are already really well thought out, and he is really, really good at understanding just things in general. But as far as RPG systems, like I can give him a core book and just go, hey, you're going to need a character by this date, and we need to talk about the background eventually. And normally, by the time he's ready, I can just go, okay, what have you got for me? And he will pitch a kind of fully fleshed out character, complete with a really, really well designed character sheet, something that works relatively well in the system. And then we just kind of go from there. But for everybody else, every time I spoke to each one of them, it always started off with, I really don't know. We just come off of a really, really strong campaign. They'd be going for 5.5 years. They'd become really attached to these characters. And had worked really, really hard. And so when we were trying to make these new characters, everyone came in as like, I don't really know. And it would always start off with, okay, well, let's start with just some ideas. What are some of the cool things you might? Well, I really kind of liked this thing, but I don't know if we could do that. I go, well, we can find a way to do that. And I would have these conversations, and the more we talked, they would eventually turn into these really amazing characters. And by the end of the conversation, it was always, oh, I am so excited for this. And then, yeah, I can't remember if every person I wrote a custom hook for them for Tears of the Realms, because part of building their characters was the knowledge that they had been in training for 6 months before the game started, so they would all kind of have a shared hook in that. But they did each have their own reason for joining the Tears Corps that we talked about while we were building their characters. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing today. And the way that I generally tend to write things is I don't write. I will sit there and plan in my head over and over and over again, because I don't have to be at a computer or somewhere to write things down, and I can't really write anything anymore with my hand. And so I just kind of plan them in my head over and over and over again, and I'll go, okay, does this make sense? And then I'll run this little scenario in my head and go, oh, I guess that works. And then I'll go back and run it again and again. And eventually I come up with these fully fledged ideas that I just have to write down. So that's the step I'm going to be taking, like I said, in just a few minutes. As soon as I turn off the camera here, I'm going to start writing for that. But for me personally, I think this is probably the most effective way to get people that are going to show up to your games and are going to keep showing up, is if they feel connected and that you want them there, and taking the time to write them a personal hook and work with them to build their characters and everything is a really, really good way to show them that, no, I'm going to put in the effort to make sure that you feel like you're a part of this story. And it goes both ways. If I'm putting this much work into this, I'm expecting my players to do this as the same. And with a few rare exceptions, I don't think I've really, again, with a few rare exceptions, it's very rare for me to have to look at a player and go, hey, listen, can you put a little bit more work into this? Like, I'm working my ass off here creating all this stuff, and you're just kind of showing up. It generally doesn't really happen that often in any of my games. And I think a lot of that has to do with just kind of mutual respect, first of all, and this initial process. If you invest in your players, they will invest in the game. If you treat them as kind of side characters in the story that you're trying to tell, they're going to put that same amount of effort in. So anyway, just because that's what I've been doing literally all day, I figured I would key you guys in on kind of the final process before I run a game. So that being said, yeah, I've got some I've got some personal hooks to write and send off, and yeah, please tune in. It'll be 9 p.m. Central Time on twitch.tv/TraderJody. Tune in tonight for my Fabula Ultima campaign. It's going to be great. So, it's all for me today. I'll see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.